whoa, whoa! Hello!
Hey!
Howdy, folks, and welcome
Hello.
to another beautiful installment of Kentucky Fried Roadkill.
That's right. We may not have herbs and spices, but we have prides and blackburns. I am the sheep in wolves' clothing, Treyton Blackburn.
And I am the hunter in the night, Evan Pride.
Whoa, powerful. That's very powerful, Evan.
Who hunts sheeps
Here's
in wolves' clothing.
Here's the thing. Here's something that I've realized that I love about the microphones that we use. So for audio medium, describing something visual. For those of you who aren't in the room with us, which is no one because Evan and I are the only people here.
Yes, we believe.
Yes. For, all rational logic assumes that we are the only two people here, but you never know. We have corded mics that we record this show with. And did you ever, when you were a little kid, did you ever see like the televangelists from like the 90s who would they would have the big long corded microphones with like the big fucking colored tips on them, and they would like work the cable as they were
Speak
fucking...
to Jesus. Yeah, like an old school 80s comic who's like
exactly, yeah.
Like Chris Rock in the 90s pacing back and forth on stage, whipping the mic cord around, yeah.
Yeah, like fucking Benny Hill, and then he's like, has to get somebody to hold his mic for him so he can like fucking force wave a group of people into a healing energy or whatever. The 90s were a wild time for television Christianity.
Oh yeah, we're using just kind of standard anything that you would see in like stand up or just a stage mic or anything. These are cheap mics. Maybe one day we'll get better ones.
Sure.
Maybe one day.
Once the show starts getting monetized, once the advertisers start rolling in,
I go back and I listen to these podcasts before we put them out. I edit them a little. I try to keep them as free flowing as possible.
Yeah.
But goddamn, listening to myself sputter over words. I mean, welcome to the podcast, listeners.
Oh wow,
It's wonderful to. It's nice to have you guys try to understand what I'm saying.
You're like the fucking nervous juror in 12 Angry Men with the fucking watch. You're like, well, I don't know if he's guilty.
Well, what do you mean by guilty? I mean, everybody in the witnesses really seem to be heavily favored in one way.
Have you ever seen that the original movie with
Gregory Peck?
No, not Henry Peck.
No.
Not Gregory Peck.
Oh, it was
Fonda.
Yeah, Henry Fonda.
Yep.
Yes, that is a wonderful movie.
It's amazing. It's so good. It's amazing. And Cobb, the guy who plays juror number 3, I can't remember his first name at the moment. Also astounding. What a great. If anybody listening to this hasn't seen the like 50s, 60s 12 Angry Men, you should go and watch it. It holds up. It's still amazing.
A lot of people are really scared off by older movies because of the black and white film or whatever.
Yeah.
But you should really go back and listen or watch those movies because there's such classic stories in there that other films in the future built off of.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of them still hold up. Like if you watch The Maltese Falcon, I mean that movie still rules. That movie slaps.
Yeah, watch anything. It may be hard to stomach through the old Chaplin movies, 20s, 30s. Buster Keaton, those are so good. If you kind of have to put yourself in a different mindset to watch a silent movie. Because, they're standing there, action happens, and they go, wah, and then it cuts to a black screen that just has the dialogue.
Yeah, which is kind of how I imagine my everyday life appearing to other people. Like, I imagine that watching me in real life is kind of like watching a silent film character.
With whimsical piano music.
Yeah, ding, 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 ding. Like my backpack gets caught on something and I fall and I slip and I hit the ground, and when I hit the ground there's like a rake that I land on and the rake bounces up. Exactly.
Yeah. You see life like a Tom and Jerry cartoon.
Yeah, and I'm always Tom. I'm never Jerry.
Yeah.
Always Tom.
I literally walk through life and like I'm in a movie, and I'm like, and this is the scene where the car passes me and I'm heading to work. The most boring movie ever.
Okay, well, but like here's the thing: what genre of movie do like you approach your life sort of viewpoint from? Like if you, Evan Pride, you feel your life like a movie. What genre of movie do you think you're in?
It's like a shitty high school comedy. like a student film where the first scene of it's like jaunty music starts up and a hand hits a alarm clock radio, turns it off, and it cuts to me and I'm stretching out of bed and I hop
Ferris
out of bed.
Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah, I hop out of bed, land on a skateboard. Just shitty, a shitty like not another teen movie.
Oh yeah,
like that genre of early 2000s comedies.
See, I feel like I am in like a low budget remake of the Truman Show. Like every second of anything that happens in my life, I'm like, am I being punked? Like, what is going on? This can't.
The Treyton Show.
Yeah, this can't be real. What I experience every day, because you know this, and I assume the longer we do this show, the more people will realize weird shit happens to me constantly. I live through so much crazy. For being a 24-year-old man, I feel like I've seen and experienced much more strangeness than I should have at this point.
Well, you're kind of like an 80-year-old man in a 24-year-old body. Even the way we're dressed now. Maybe we'll take like little pictures, and put them out with social media. Just because you got your little khakis on, your button-up shirt. You're dressed pretty well.
Thank you. Yeah. I was on a Zoom meeting all day for work. So
why do you wear fancy pants?
Just in case I stand up and they see my butt. I don't want to like show them my crazy Avengers pajama pants when I stand up with my nice dress shirt.
Do you own underwear that doesn't have cartoon characters on it?
No. No, I don't.
Marvel heroes?
No, I do. I have one pair of boxer shorts that a high school girlfriend got for me. We were doing A Christmas Story, the play, and I was playing Scut Farkus in that play.
Yeah, the
bully.
Yeah, that's a good casting.
Yeah,
I mean, normally you'd be beaten up by the Scud Farkus, but
I was the biggest kid, so I was.
You're the biggest kid with the rattiest face. So
yeah,
they're like, get him in here. He's perfect.
He's perfect. So I was playing Scut Farkus in that play, and my girlfriend at the time was playing one of the little boys. Was playing Flick, which is interesting, but. We did our gift exchange after the show closed, and she got me a pair of boxer shorts that have the leg lamp on them on one leg, and on the other leg it has It's a Major Award. And we did our gift exchange publicly at the theater, and everyone thought it was very, very funny.
that It's a Major Award scene is such a good fucking scene.
It is. It's great.
And I just love the concept, the old crusty dad, and his only joy in life is this leg lamp.
This leg lamp.
And his wife, and it breaks near his wife, and he's like, "You did it on purpose."
So, two things. First of all, if anybody ever asks you to be in the Christmas Story play, never do it. It's easily one of the worst theatrical experiences of my life.
Same with the 12 Angry Men play.
Oh, really? I really want to do 12 Angry Men, so that's interesting.
Or at least some productions of it.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those shows that has a million different productions of it. The Outsiders is another one of those shows. I saw both productions of The Outsiders and 12 Angry Men at one particular high school. Not trying to call them out. People that are listening
and know who Evan's talking about
might feel a little slated personally, but those were good productions. 12 Angry Men was actually really good there. But I know it's one of those plays that just has a million different versions of it.
Here's the thing about A Christmas Story. It's 3 hours long. 3:15 at the intermission.
It's an hour and a half movie. How did they stretch it out?
Because what they did is all the fantasy scenes that Ralphie has in the movie, they've expanded out into full scenes.
They're full sing-along.
Oh, they're musicals. So long. And there are more fantasy scenes than are in the movie.
He has a lot of fantasy scenes.
I know.
He fights those robbers.
The Farkus doubles as one of the robbers in the show.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. But with Farkus, so like I only had 3 scenes in a 3-hour play, and which is roughly 1 scene per hour.
That's unbearable.
Yeah, and so I was downstairs with these fucking old ass actors who were like the adults in the show who are also never on stage. So it's me and these crusty old fuckers. And there was this guy So the dressing room that we were in, it was a straight shot, and what are we gonna call him? I'm gonna call him Pythagoras. Okay, so Pythagoras. Yeah, Pythagoras was one of the adults in the show, and he was very old at the time. And when he was in the dressing room, he liked to take his costume off because he didn't like how warm it was. You know, it's his heavy winter clothes, and they're heating down there to keep it warm. And
yeah, costumes are very hot.
Yeah.
All costumes feel like they have heating wires running through them. And even worse when you're on stage under the fucking stage lights.
Oh my gosh. But let me tell you something. When we did shows at UK together, I was never hot because I come from...
Because you don't have an ounce of fat on your body.
Well, that's...
Because you have no external shell.
Sure, that's partially true. But also because I come from a black box theater where we didn't have... Like, we had maybe 4 LEDs and the rest were like old-ass fucking... fire par cans, right? Well, and they were right in your face. It was so like we would be drenched at the end of shows. Like my hair would be so wet at the end of a show. It was miserable, dude.
There's something to be said about how sweaty an actor gets over the course of a show.
You know, like you're like fucking on stage and like you're blocked to hug somebody or like even shake somebody's hand and you just like feel all the sweat on them when you do it. And you're like,
dude, when I played Shrek, I had a rubber head mask that I had to wear. And when I took that fucking thing off, it looked like I was doing the ice bucket challenge. Just water would fall out and just drench me and every bit of my clothing.
That's hell. That's really hell.
Yeah.
But so Pythagoras and I, the dressing room was almost like a hallway. Like it was a straight dressing room, like a row of mirrors. They had like little costume cubbies on the opposite side of the mirrors, and it was like a pretty small room.
Yeah.
And there was a bathroom door on the left-hand side at the end, and there was a chair sitting next to that bathroom door, like a big wooden chair. And Pythagoras loved that chair. Like it was his spot in the dressing room. You know how everybody has their own spot?
Yeah, yeah. Some people get very territorial over their one spot.
Well, his spot was that chair. And because he took his costume off and because he had these fucking ratty boxer shorts that he wore to every show, not the same pair, but they were all ratty and they were all terrible. And his nuts were so just pendulous that he would sit in that
Good word,
chair.
Pendulous.
He would sit in that fucking wooden chair with his legs spread wide open. And you could, like, because he was the center focal point of the whole goddamn room, you couldn't do anything but look at his nuts the whole time you were talking to him. I wanted to be like, Pythagoras, man, sit on those motherfucking things. You're killing me here.
Put your damn nuts up.
Put your white fucking hairy ass nuts between your ass cheeks like everybody else.
Did his underwear have holes in them and they were just laying out?
Yes.
Okay, so I sympathize with Pythagoras because
no, you don't sympathize.
Yes,
with
I do.
You're not gonna have your whole nut. I've been in the dressing room with you, you son of a bitch. If I ever see you with your nutsack out in a fucking dressing room, I'm gonna step on them. I promise you.
One, they don't hang down that low yet.
Right.
Yeah, and two, you just haven't been looking hard enough because every pair of underwear I own has at least 8 holes of I was about to say holes of cheese in them. It looks like Swiss cheese. There's so many fucking holes. And oftentimes the where there's a hole is just, you know, that kind of grundle butthole
that's the area that the rot starts and works its way out.
Dude, I have acidic ball sweat and it just like slowly
eats that hole out.
Yeah, it eats away at it.
Yeah,
and
until there's a perfectly nutsack sized hole.
Yeah, my nuts can just kind of hang down in that hole. And if I'm wearing like jeans, I'm like walking around and everything's all tucked up, but my nuts are like swinging around in there. Your
fucking nuts are fucking staging a liberation in your underwear, Evan. They want to be free.
Well, so here's the problem. So
got it.
For my nuts to be free, they have 2 walls of steel to corrode through.
Yeah.
And they've already taken out most of my underwear, and now they're working on half my pants. So like half my pants have this little hole in it, and it just gets. And I'm always doing acrobats and shit, so it gets bigger over time.
Well, and here's the thing, I don't want to,
I'm not doing acrobatics.
I don't want to ask personal questions on the show. God forbid we talk about anything personal.
No.
We're talking about nut sacks. But is the hole like a full nut sack sized hole, or are we talking like glimpses and like peeping Tom your nut sack?
It's not like hole in the wall where the hole is perfectly suited for my nuts.
Right.
It starts as a little peeping Tom hole.
Yeah.
And then it grows just because I also get stretched out. That's probably what. But it always starts, I'm pretty sure, because of the toxic
Well, and the weight
sweat.
of those bad boys, I mean, come on. The weight of those bad boys have to be...
Oh, yeah.
Those heavy nuts of yours got to be wearing on those threads.
You got to have big balls to talk about your acidic nut sweat on a
That's true.
on a podcast
That's true.
that your grandma listens to.
Sorry, Gam. I apologize.
Love you, Nana. Your grandson's got sweaty balls.
The nastiest balls I've ever seen on this kid.
They'll tell through anything.
And he's had these nasty, nasty balls since he was a little baby. You've never seen a baby with a nutsack like this.
We've never had to change a diaper so often. It just corrodes
That's
down through the middle.
You think he's peed or he's pooped, but no, it's the nuts. They're disgusting.
It's the nuts, and sometimes we don't realize that there's a little hole until he shits, and then his diapers are just shit funnels, these things. It's just concentrated. It's like we got different settings on a nozzle that sprays water out a hose.
But here's the point I'm trying to get across about Pythagoras, right? Is it's never a peeping Tom hole with Pythagoras, okay?
No.
It's a fucking baseball-sized hole.
It's a gaping. And I'll admit that I should buy new underwear.
Yeah, of course. Would you wear, when you're getting ready to go to the show, right? You take a shower 45 minutes before call or however long it takes you to get ready in the morning.
Yeah.
Throw your underwear on. You look down and your whole nutsack's hanging out. You're like, I can't change in front of handsome Dan like this.
Well, see, my problem is I'm like, my nuts are hanging out. So I go to get more underwear. I'm like,
no.
All right, at least it's
I'll
just
put a sock around the nutsack to disguise it.
Yeah. It's like I'm doing a nude scene in a movie. I got them tucked back.
Yeah. In a fucking tube sock.
Yeah, Yeah, so what I do, I'm like a drag performer. I just tuck my balls into my butt and just walk around. Oh my god. Treyton was taking a sip of coffee right when I said that. You had coffee go through your nose.
Oh god, it hurts so bad. It hurts. Oh, I'm crying because it hurts so bad.
Hot coffee. That's fresh coffee too.
Oh god. Oh god. Oh, this is sonically the worst. This is the worst episode we've ever done. It's awful, Evan. It's terrible. We were looking at our listener base before this episode.
We were.
And they're gone now. We just lost everybody who listens to this show.
We sat down. We appreciate everybody who's actually listening to the show. That's
welcome to the last episode of Kentucky Fried Roadkill.
Yeah, this is the end. We appreciate you being with us the whole time. Tell your friends, hey, buddies I have listening to this, share it with your friends. Put this, get a tattoo of the Kentucky Fried Roadkill logo.
Yeah.
And then
with the faces.
Yes, put out billboards of your tattoo.
If you get a tattoo of my face and Evan's face, we will. I mean, there's no reward we can give you, but we'll be very flattered if that is the case.
Yes, and you might qualify for being wanted in several counties if you have our face surgically put onto your body. But yes, share the show. We're having fun doing it, right? I mean, I just made Treyton spit coffee out his nose.
God. It's like residual pain. Oh, it's awful. It's so awful.
You got coffee boogers.
Oh shit! Fuck.
Well,
speaking of old movies in black and white.
Oh, this is a good transition.
This is a good transition. Let's talk
to
about
where I think you're going.
Wandavision.
Oh. Okay, so I have like two things pulled up on my screen, or a couple things. I thought we have the Godzilla versus Kong trailer
which is
pulled
also
up, which that's where I thought you were going.
sure.
Yeah, black and white old monkeys on
Yeah.
top of buildings.
The Empire State Building, in fact.
But yeah, so I mean, we don't even have much to say about this. I just wanted to express my excitement for Godzilla v Kong.
Have you seen
and confusion, because Kong is so much smaller than Godzilla to everybody's memory.
Yeah, he also does not breathe fire like Godzilla does.
He breathes like nuclear shit, right?
Yeah, Godzilla does. I was never a big kaiju kid growing up, so
I loved the old King Kong and the old Godzilla. The old Godzilla with Matthew Broderick. I mean, it was just
the 2000s Godzilla or the 90s Godzilla.
Listen, I was a child when I watched it.
Okay, all right,
and it was my first introduction to Godzilla. Because, like, other than that, it's like old dudes in rubber suits.
See, I grew up on the little Godzilla I did have exposure to. The first Godzilla movie I ever watched was Godzilla versus Gigan, which is rubber suits, fucking,
Godzilla fans are unlike any other fans.
Yeah.
They are fucking into it. And whenever a trailer like this comes out, they break down frame by frame the whole thing. And some of these are my friends who are sitting through. And I remember when the original remake of Godzilla came out, the one with Bryan Cranston in it for a hot 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I went to see that movie with my mom. We sat down. Bryan Cranston, because she was like, Breaking Bad, yay! And we sat down, and he died within the first 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
And she just kind of looked over at me so sad and was like, I kind of want to leave now. I was here for Bryan Cranston.
Your mom is such a sweet lady.
Yes,
she's
she
a very,
is.
very sweet lady. My mom, very, very much sweet is not the adjective that would be foremost on anyone's mind.
No,
to describe my mother.
No, if she had I was gonna say if she had a taste, she wouldn't be sweet. I was about to ask you to describe the taste of your mom. Would you say she's more bitter, sour?
She's
chocolatey.
There's a spice to her, right?
Okay,
but not like a chili spice,
like curry.
Yeah,
like a chipotle.
Oh
pepper.
yeah, that's the kind of spice my mom brings.
Like wasabi.
Yeah,
it just lights up all your
exact. And I don't want anybody to have any false pretenses. I love my mother very much, but the woman has a temper. And the woman has, I get my lack of a filter from my mom. Yeah. My mom tells people exactly what she thinks, and it is not always tempered by a kindness.
Yeah. We're Catholics, so we get our filter through just church.
We're Protestants. We believe that having a filter is tantamount to lying.
Not telling you exactly how I feel. I might as well be lying to you.
I might as well be lying to you. I'm going to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And even if it sucks. But with Godzilla versus Kong, I don't know. Obviously, I'm going to watch it. It's going to be dope. Because, what movie where Godzilla and King Kong are fighting is it not going to be dope?
They reel you in with the monster fights, but then when you go to see the movie, it's there's gonna be 10 minutes of those monsters fighting. If that was the whole thing, if it was like Pacific Rim did that well, where
I've never seen Pacific Rim, but I've heard nothing but good things.
I've heard I saw the first one. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's such a shitty, cheesy, like action anime story script characters.
But that's great.
But it's great.
Yeah.
Because Pacific Rim, the first one, not the second one. I heard the second one sucked, and the first one, what was good about it was it kind of knew what the movie was. They were like, people are watching this movie for monster fights, so they gave it to people. And I enjoyed the first new Godzilla movie. I didn't see the sequel.
I also didn't see the sequel.
But I'm excited for this sequel. But what we did watch, and you were originally trying to bring up.
Yes.
Was this little show called WandaVision
that everyone is watching? Certainly.
Yes, it's very fun. All right, so we're gonna talk about WandaVision a little bit. We'll talk about it broadly first.
Yeah, spoiler free. We're gonna talk about it artistically,
and then
toward the end of the show, we're gonna do a spoiler warning and talk about our theories about where this thing is going. Because I don't think you can have a WandaVision conversation without trying to talk about where it's going.
Yeah.
So we'll give a warning before that happens.
Yeah, I'll tell you to skip forward however long we're talking about it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna feel like a loser when I'm editing this, and I'm like, spoilers for WandaVision. Skip forward 1 hour.
98 minutes.
Yeah. All right. So WandaVision. So last episode, you told I hadn't seen this at all. You had seen the first three.
Yeah.
And there's 4 episodes out now.
Correct.
Which I have now caught up on. And I gotta say, I was apprehensive at first when I first saw commercials for this. I was like, this is the dumbest thing ever. There's 2 characters that I don't really care about. I went into my feelings about it last episode. But just conceptually what this show is, and it's, if you, just the first 3 episodes, I'm trying not to go into spoilers, but it gets much more. You're going to have a problem if you start, and this is one of my problems with shows. I turn it on. If the first 3 minutes doesn't get me, I'm like, this is dumb. And I turn it off. I'm so close-minded for trying out shit. But this is one that you really have to kind of sit and marinate in the first. I think it's fair to say that, literally, if you go to the episode 3 is like now in color. So it's safe, it's not a spoiler to say that the show progresses and, things change. It becomes in color and all of these things.
Well, and here's the conceit I think you have to accept for WandaVision, right? And it's a conceit that's going to be difficult on different levels for people, right? So I grew up watching TV Land with my dad and with my grandmother, like Andy Griffith's show and Bonanza and the 60s Batman show and Bewitched. And all those great... the sitcoms.
Turner Classics.
Yeah, exactly.
I watch those whenever I get a haircut. The barber I go to, he's always got them on at a little TV.
But so I grew up with those, and with if you have that background with that sitcom sort of format and style, I think you're gonna have an easier time getting into the show.
Yeah, my girlfriend kept saying, this is like I Love Lucy. Yeah, which I had never seen, but she
it's
was
an amazing show.
Fan of, yeah.
Yeah, Lucille Ball is a comedic genius.
Yeah, Lucille Ball. That's the name she kept saying.
But so I think that if you're a fan of that that kind of style of storytelling and that kind of style of humor, WandaVision is going to be an easy sell for you.
Yeah, and it's fun because it is in that style. And when you first start watching the show, you're like, what's going on? Like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And then they slowly start to turn into, you start to get little peaks of what's going on. And the characters, they slip in and out of this reality that they're in.
It's a surreal horror sitcom.
Yeah, it really is. It's scary at times. Okay, what else artistically do you have to say about the show before?
Well, I think as 2 people who appreciate stellar performances, Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany, they are acting their hearts out. They are fantastic.
They're very good at it.
Absolutely.
IMDb pulled up right here.
They look like they are having the most fun that any actor's ever had. Like, it just, sometimes when you're like watching a play or a movie or a TV show and like you can be like, yeah, that actor is suffering doing this, or that actor is having fun doing this. Like, great performances can take all different kinds of colors, but it seems to me that Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany are having the time of their lives doing this show.
It looks very fun.
It does.
It looks like, it's kind of filmed like it's it's filmed in that old sitcom style, and old sitcoms, newer ones don't do this as much. They're filmed in front of a live studio audience. So shit like The Honeymooners and shit, all those laughs that you would hear were real people sitting in the audience laughing. And you know
that they did, I think maybe it's just the first episode or maybe it's the first 3. They filmed in front of a live studio audience.
Yeah. It has that feel, and that really adds something to it. Even from the perspective of someone who isn't super familiar with those old shows. Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Well, and another thing,
you're familiar, even if you don't watch those old shows, you're familiar with them. You've seen reference to them and shit. Yeah.
Well, and
you were saying
each episode takes on like a different persona in that sitcom archetype. Like the first episode is very much like I Love Lucy. The second episode is very much Bewitched. The third episode is very much The Brady Bunch, and the fourth episode, yeah.
So should we get into spoiler talk?
Well, I think I have one more thing that I want to talk about. It's an art form that I think goes underprivileged a lot, especially in superhero movies where or superhero media where designing these comic book characters for a pseudo-realistic world has kind of become sort of, copy and paste, like military-esque looking plates or whatever. Yeah. The costume designer of this show, I don't know who it is or what their name is, but whoever the costume designer is on WandaVision has done amazing work with creating the aesthetics of these sitcom time periods, right? Like, I think period costumes are always really hard.
Yeah, because their first reaction is just like, oh, they're put them in some Victorian gown. People's first thoughts of what they think. Let's say a show takes place in the 70s. First thought, if you get a shitty costume designer, everybody's gonna have afros, walking around with the fucking
bell bottoms, and the big collars.
Yeah, and the the velvet vest and all that shit. But if you get someone with really good, I agree with you.
See who the costume designer is on this show. We should name drop that costume designer.
Give him a shout out. Yeah. Well, we like to promote all types of people. Man, dude, the internet version of IMDb is so much more harder to navigate than the app version. Okay, so this is all the costume design. Series costume designed by Maze C. Rubio.
Maze C. Rubio.
Wow. Oh, and she is a woman.
Yeah, she's amazing.
She's amazing.
She's from Mexico City. Oh, she was the costume designer for Thor Ragnarok too.
And Avatar.
Duh. Well.
And The Great Wall. Dude, this fucking movie, The Great Wall. I don't know. I seriously don't know how that movie got made, because it's 2016, which was when, after Trump elected, everybody. That's when it became relevant to realize that racism is real or whatever.
Yeah. And that walls, generally speaking, aren't a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, they made a movie about a wall the whole year when Build a Wall was.
Not only did they make a movie about a wall in 2016, they made a movie about the wall. Like, when you think of a wall, the wall that everyone thinks of, the Great Wall of China. And they cast a white guy as the protagonist.
That's the thing. They
it was like a perfect storm of dog whistles.
They put Matt Damon and I believe Willem Dafoe in this movie. Yeah, and I guess Pedro Pascal was in it. He's great.
He is very good.
He's the Mandalorian.
Let me ask you something. I don't want you to answer it. I just want it to land on you and let you and the audience marinate it.
Okay.
What's going on with Willem Dafoe's face, huh?
Audience, think about it.
Think about what's going on with Willem Dafoe's face, because it's not right, whatever it is. Anyway, back to WandaVision.
I think he got an early deal on taxidermy.
Oh, yeah. Yep, that would do it.
Can you imagine they just start taxidermying people just towards the end of their like the last 20.
That's what I want.
The last 20 years of your life, you just slowly get another taxidermy infection, and you just kind of stiffen up a little more. That way, you don't die.
You just stop moving one day.
Yeah, eventually, it's they call it premature rigor mortis.
Rigor mortis.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the scientific term that they call that. I just made up. I believe this is a great idea. Also, I think it's a good time to say I don't know how taxidermy works.
I don't know how taxidermy works either.
Because
hey, if any taxidermists ever listen to this, please reach out.
Give us a shout.
We would love to come and figure out what it is that you do exactly.
Do you like inject people with like a?
Well, I don't think they do anything with people, Evan. I don't think taxidermy happens with people.
Okay, well, do you I guess you can't taxidermy a human.
No, you can't taxidermy.
No.
Can you imagine if we had like our grandparents taxidermized when they died and just have them hanging around the house?
Chilling in the corner.
Yeah, we have them posed like you do fucking fish and deer and shit.
They got a hat on.
Like it's grandma sitting on a log. Like, yep.
Every year you switch out the Happy New Year's glasses that they're wearing.
Dude, Happy Year's.
We just take off these 2020s, put on these 2021s. Yeah.
Shit. But one of the things, and absolutely no disrespect at all to Elizabeth Olsen. In fact, I think I've read that Elizabeth Olsen had issues with it too. But like Scarlet Witch and Wanda Maximoff throughout the MCU since Age of Ultron to Infinity War.
Wait, she is Scarlet Witch, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
That's just. They've never called her the Scarlet Witch in the MCU.
They always call her Wanda, but like in conversations with friends, when you're talking about it, you refer to her as the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Scarlett Johansson's character.
Black Widow.
And honestly, her being named Scarlett Johansson threw me off a little bit. It always threw me off, yeah. Black Widow. They made a Black Widow movie. Did you ever see it?
They did. It hasn't come out yet.
Oh, it hasn't come out.
No, they postponed it because of COVID. I'm very excited for it, though.
Oh, this is something you mentioned to me before we started recording. It's cool how HBO and Netflix are they put out those trailers for all the movies that are coming.
Well, and they're Warner Brothers. They're doing their whole yearly film roster on HBO Max.
Yeah, they're releasing it.
Which there is a lot of controversy about because of how it could potentially affect movie theaters that are already struggling because of the pandemic.
Yes, but not AMC. Hold the line, baby.
But here's my
That's
point.
something that happened. The stock market, since the last time.
Poof.
But we don't know anything.
No, we don't know anything about stocks. I mean, if this is how Eating the Rich starts, I guess, whatever. I'm going to listen to the other proletariats and, they point me in the direction where rich people got to get eaten and I'll go. But
I was just trying to buy some games at GameStop.
Yeah. Yeah. But I have a friend who was a film major and we were talking about the HBO releasing and the controversy. And he was like, the only theaters that are really going to be hurt by this are the popcorn theaters that are uber successful because your AMC's and your whatever. He's like the like local movie theaters, their markets aren't going to be hurt that bad.
Yeah, because it's filled with people that go to local movie theaters anyways.
Exactly.
And even local movie theaters, I feel like if you want to watch like a big film, okay. There are two. I feel like there are two demographics of people that go see movies in movie theaters.
Yeah.
There's the big blockbuster releases, which those are they're like, if Avengers Endgame came out during COVID, that would have sucked because it was so much fun to be in an audience watching that movie. And
I've never seen a movie when I saw it because I saw Endgame at midnight with a friend of mine at the IMAX here in Lexington.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things about watching Infinity War and Endgame in the theaters was like the energy of the audience, right?
Yeah.
Like people got, people were cheering, people were fucking
people got
clapping. It was crazy.
Collective.
Yeah.
And fucking it just highlights the comedy in those movies when there's in my opinion nothing beats seeing a movie with then seeing a movie at a movie theater with a live audience.
Yes.
Those big blockbusters, the Fast and the Furious, those movies are so shitty, but still my friends and I would go to them just for the big explosions and all that.
People love the Fast and the Furious movies. I have never, this is true, I've never seen any movie in the Fast and Furious franchise. Not once have I seen any of them, but people love them.
I mean, I can't imagine you would get any value out of them unless you were trying to jack off or some shit.
Well, Evan, I've got ample jack off material. I don't need to watch Fast and the Furious to get there. I'm good.
Not to the oiled up women in those movies, but more
to Vin Diesel.
Yeah, the back of Vin Diesel's neck.
Yeah.
Me and my family, we call it. He's got a pack of hot dogs back there. Yeah.
Anyway. Back to what I was saying about Elizabeth Olsen.
Elizabeth Olsen, wonderful actress.
Wonderful actress. But Elizabeth Olsen, I don't feel like has ever been really well costumed throughout all of the MCU up to this point.
Yeah, I agree. She kind of had like when they try to put a cartoon costume just into a movie.
Right.
Like Wolverine with his yellow and blue never looks good in a movie. No.
Yes. And people who are like, I want to see him in the classic X-Men costumes. Like, no, you don't.
No, you don't.
You do not want to see them in the classic X-Men costumes. I promise. I promise you don't want to see that.
Yeah. You want to see him in Logan with like a fucking wife beater.
Yeah, that's what you want. But anyway, so like, wife beater. Why?
Well,
he's wearing a tank top.
They're called a wife beater.
You can't call him that, Evan.
You can't call them wife beaters anymore?
You can't call them wife. Obviously, you can't call them wife beaters anymore.
Well, it makes sense, but there's still plenty of things.
It's a tank top.
It's a tank top. Well,
it's a tank top.
Well, that has tanks, rolling army,
Evan,
military.
buddy.
Yeah.
Listen, if you're trying to fucking duck paddle your way out of this one, I don't think that this is
I'm not
the hill you want to die on, my friend.
I'm not defending wife beaters as an idea. But what I'm saying is we should move on to another topic.
Anyway, I think Elizabeth Olsen is magnificently costumed in WandaVision. I think that everything she has worn throughout the entire run of the show has just been absolutely gorgeous and like really fits the period, fits the character of Wanda, and it's just so, I don't know. You remember in the first Avengers movie when like they made Chris Evans wear that Captain America costume, and like even though the Avengers was the coolest movie ever made, all of us were like, Captain America's costume does not look great.
Yeah, the cheesy one. It looked like he had like just a blue tight hoodie coming over his face
with like a mask attached to the front.
Yeah, once they got rid of the top half, the headwear on Captain America.
Well, it was Winter Soldier when they turned the mask into a helmet. Everybody was like, yes, that works. That's what it should be.
Which I didn't have a problem with, honestly, because it kind of made sense that he was in the old cheesy one. Because are you referring to the first Captain America
the Battle
movie?
of New York Avengers Captain America costume?
Oh, that one.
Second half of the movie.
That one is...
That movie's great. That costume blows. That is in my opinion, it's the worst costume in the entire MCU. From all the movies, it's the worst costume.
Interesting.
It's awful. It's so hard to look at.
Yeah. Dude, the new Spider-Man suit.
Oh my God.
What's your preferred? I think it's silly to talk about your preferred Spider-Man because it's generational. Our generation Spider-Man will always be Tobey Maguire to me. Just from those fucking movies. But I feel like everybody agrees that Tom Holland, this most recent Spider-Man, it's the most accurate portrayal of Peter Parker. That because he seems like a fucking teenager. All the other ones, Spider-Man seemed like a 28-year-old.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing.
Not my favorite suit though, of the new ones.
I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. Always have been. He's one of my very favorite characters that's ever been written.
You guys share a love of flinging webs.
And we do. We're both very, very talented web slingers.
Yeah.
But what I I really started with the comics before I ever the first like piece of Spider-Man media I ever saw was like the 90s Marvel cartoon. Did you ever see that show on like Fox Kids?
I don't know if it was the same one, but there was a show that was it was like the early 2000s, and it aired at the same time of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, fucking like Powerpuff Girls and shit were out at the time.
Anyway, it was a great Spider-Man.
The Fox Box.
The Fox Box, yeah. But that Spider-Man show was great. But one of the things that, and this is the cheesiest thing I've ever said probably, but when I was a kid, and it's how I, in my adult life, understand that representation matters, is like when I would see like Batman or Superman, it's why I never got into DC. I would look at their characters and I would be like, well, I mean, I don't see myself in any of these characters, but like, I'm telling you, when I looked at Peter Parker in the old Spider-Man comics, I saw myself. I was like, he looks like me. Like I could be Spider-Man. Like he was lanky and he had big round glasses and he had, he got picked on all the time. And it meant a lot to me as a nerdy, lanky kid who got picked on all the time.
Yeah.
And it's, in my opinion, it's the one thing that no movie, not one of them, has gotten right about Peter Parker. Because
is that he's that much of a nerd?
Well, so my wife and I actually just the other night rewatched Spider-Man: Homecoming,
which I haven't seen.
It's great.
Yes,
it's really good.
I need to watch that.
But Tara and I were watching it, and Tara was like, "Why do these people not figure out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man? Like, shouldn't they be able to do the mental calculus that Spider-Man is Peter Parker?"
Yeah.
And the reason that nobody figures it out in the comics is he's such a dork and such a dweeb and such a loser that even if you did the mental calculus, you would still go, yeah, but Peter Parker is not Spider-Man. Like, he's just not Spider-Man.
Yeah, there's no way that fucking nerd
is Spider-Man.
Yeah. The Andrew Garfield one was the one that missed it the most, I think. Because,
I agree.
I mean, he was smart in the movie, but he wasn't a nerd at all. He didn't he's fucking, he's like a good looking, like spiked up hair dude walking around and,
which isn't unprecedented in the comics. That's happened with Peter Parker before.
No, it has, but I think what you're saying and what I'm agreeing with is that Peter Parker is a nerdy little he's a nerd who became a superhero.
Yes.
Through like science. He got the spider bite and all that shit. And like you're talking about, I guess representation matters because you were sitting there and you're like, well, there's plenty of radiating things around here.
Yeah, give me. I got bit by a radioactive possum. Yeah, and that's how I got my superpowers.
Every time you get bit by just a random thing in the woods, you're like, well, and you try to climb up a tree, test out your new powers.
Exactly. It's why I got bit by a radioactive possum, and I got a prehensile tail and a pouch out of it. So
yes,
that's my superpower. But it's like, it's another thing that I think they get wrong about Peter Parker. I could go on and on, but he always ends up with his love interest far too quickly. And the Tobey Maguire movies got this the most correct. But in comic communities, like Spider-Man's had a lot of love interests over the years. Gwen Stacy, who died, Mary Jane Watson, who's obviously the most famous.
Yes.
Felicia Hardy, the Black Cat. Betty Brant, I could go on and on. He's had all kinds of love interests. But the thing that makes Mary Jane Watson so special as a character is she sees the value in Peter Parker as a human being beyond his role as Spider-Man and beyond his dorkiness as Peter Parker. Like, it is that cross-section that makes Mary Jane such a special character in that world.
So, do all the other characters, does like Gwen's, because everybody eventually figures out that he's Spider-Man, that's dating him, right? Gwen Stacy eventually.
Felicia Hart. So, Gwen Stacy.
Do they come
Actually, I don't think Gwen Stacy ever does find out.
Yeah.
Because Gwen, I think she dies before she finds out. And Gwen Stacy is like, if anybody's looking for comic book recommendations, you should read Spider-Man Blue. It's one of the greatest Spider-Man stories ever told. It talks a lot about like an adult Peter Parker's memory of Gwen Stacy, this, girl that he loved when he was a teenager.
Yes.
It's very nostalgic and very beautiful, but Gwen Stacy is like the image of what could have been, right? Like that is what she has always represented ever since the night Gwen Stacy died was on shelves. Like she is the memory of the love that could have been.
In the new Spider-Man movies, doesn't Zendaya play Gwen Stacy? Is that
Zendaya?
Is there a Gwen Stacy? Because
Zendaya's character is called MJ. I think her technical name is Michelle Jones, is what they call her. But she's Mary Jane. Okay. I mean, they just didn't want, the fucking incel racist bastards to be like, Mary Jane Watson cannot be played by a woman of color. I guess they wanted to avoid that, which fuck them for not having the courage to just call her Mary Jane.
Or maybe,
and maybe it was because of the marijuana, like,
MJ.
pseudonym.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, they could still call her MJ.
Yeah. I mean, they still do call her MJ. But regardless, my favorite Spider-Man love interest, because I think she's the one that's most interesting conflict-wise, is Felicia Hardy, the Black Cat. Because Felicia Hardy is head over heels in love with Spider-Man. Like, from the word go, she came out, and I think the late, maybe early 70s she came out. And she was like that image of like the femme fatale who like is dangerous for the protagonist. But
yeah.
But since then, she's developed into a really interesting character in that she loves Spider-Man.
She's like a mega fan?
No, not a fan, but she's infatuated with Spider-Man, like the persona of Spider-Man. But
I'm really into what you're doing out there. I like.
But when he takes the mask off and shows that he's Peter Parker, she's like, ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah, she's like, ooh, put the mask back on, please.
Ooh.
And she's not into Peter Parker. Like, she learns about his life as Peter Parker, and she's like, listen, you just need to give up the Peter Parker life and go Spider-Man full time, because
I love it.
If you do that, I will fuck you. But like, if you're gonna still be Peter Parker, I take issue with that.
Listen, the spider suit has to stay on if this wants to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And isn't that such a fascinating idea for a romantic relationship?
It's so fascinating, and I've never even heard of this character, and I wish that the movies that they put out every 3 years re-documenting fucking Spider-Man's origin story like we don't know it.
Right.
They seem to miss that character.
Here's the if you want a good Felicia Hardy story, you need to play the Spider-Man game that came out for PS4 a few years ago, and the DLC pretty much revolves around Felicia Hardy, and I'll give the premise because this isn't a spoiler, because it's like the first 5 minutes of the DLC. But like, she's robbing a place. She's a cat burglar, obviously. She's robbing, I think it's an art museum for something. And Peter Parker, like in this game, he's in his 20s. And he and MJ just get back together at the end of the main story. That's a spoiler for the main story of Spider-Man 4. PS4. But when Felicia Hardy comes in, they have like banter and there's like a little fight scene, whatever. It's fun. And there's a cutscene on the roof and she's asking for Spider-Man's help. He's like, no, you're back in the crime life. I'm not helping you. There is nothing you could say to me that's going to get me to help you right now. I'm in a good place. MJ and I just got back together. We can't do this. And Spider-Man starts to walk away and Felicia's like, there's something I need to tell you that I've been hiding from you for a while.
I'm the Green Goblin.
You have a son that I've been raising behind your back.
Wait, she had Spider-Man's kid?
Yeah, and he didn't know it.
Isn't that how Mary Jane died in the original comics? She that fucking spider jizz ate away at her insides.
Yeah, his radioactive spider cum.
Yeah, it killed her, right?
It is one of the most hated stories in all of Spider-Man history. People hate that story, myself included.
Yeah.
He also, another fucking crazy thing that Spider-Man does in the comics horrible writing for Peter Parker is, so Aunt May died at some point in the comics, like in the 2000s, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a Spider-Man story where Peter Parker makes a deal with the devil of the Marvel Universe, Mephisto, and and trades in his marriage and life with Mary Jane to get Aunt May back, who's 1,000. Like, what the fuck are you doing, Spider-Man? People die, dude. You have to be okay with that.
Does she come back forever, or just does
they retcon it and he gets Mary Jane and Aunt May? Like, essentially the problem was everybody was like, Spider-Man's too old now. He's just like a fucking old married guy now. And they wanted to write this story to retcon his marriage to Mary Jane and to make him a teenager again. And I was just like, fuck, man. Aunt May has been 1,000 years old forever. Let the bitch die.
One more thing to put a cap on this Spider-Man conversation is, I think Into the Spider-Verse is
amazing.
One, I think it's the best Spider-Man movie made. Two, I think it's really interesting because so many comics like Spider-Man have all these different stories, and only comic book guys like yourself or my boy Ryan Hines, who are really into comic books, know all these different storylines. Yeah, and I think Spider-Verse is so cool because it brings all the all the different versions of Spider-Man, and Spider-Man is, I guess he's one of those guys that's, there's a different version of Spider-Man. There's like a million different versions of Spider-Man, and it has that old, like, dried out alcoholic Spider-Man.
Yeah. Spider-Man is like the fucking Hamlet of our generation. Like, we'll all get to play Spider-Man at some point. You'll get to be Spider-Man. I'll get to be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Tara, I'll get to be Spider-Man. It'll be great. My favorite, and just to give my insight as to what you said, I love Spider-Verse, don't get me wrong, but I don't know that there's ever been a better Spider-Man story ever told than Spider-Man 2. Like, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, I think, may be the best Spider-Man story ever put to film.
Yeah, that's what people say. That's the favorite.
It's really, really good.
With Doc Ock and stuff.
Spider-Man for PS4, I mean, it is also, like, up there in some of the greatest Spider-Man stories ever told. Play Spider-Man for PS4, it's great.
And there's a new one coming out for PS5 soon. So.
And they just released a Miles Morales Spider-Man game for PS5.
Yes, I've heard good things.
I've heard good things.
Heard good things about all those. Dude, it's going to be a couple years till I get, I think, so I have an Xbox One right now.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to get the new generation of gaming systems, I think I'm going to switch to PS5.
Yeah.
Just because I think it's the obvious choice. Mm-hmm. And looking back, PS4 turned out to be way better than the Xbox One. Yeah. But damn it, I was a 360 kid growing up, and
see, I was a PlayStation kid,
and I was out in the rain waiting for this sucker to come out.
Actually, I was a GameCube kid. Is the truth of the matter. I was a Nintendo kid. But I always had a PlayStation too.
Yeah. So I forgot where I was. Oh, but so one day I look forward to getting a PS5, and
dude, I bet I'll have a baby before I have a PS5.
Yeah,
I would wager I will be a father before I have a PS5.
Yeah,
I would wager that will be the case.
Well, good on you. You'll have a whole handful. You won't have much time to game.
A little infant
once you have a kid.
Yeah,
we should mention this because my buddy, he called me up and we were talking, and he was listening to the podcast. Mm-hmm. People don't understand. We talked about it on like the first episode of this, but I'm in college right now. Yeah. I'm a senior. This is my last semester in college, and you're only like 2 years older than me, but you're already married. Yep. And
I am.
Yeah,
very happily married.
You dropped. I know you, so you say my wife now. Yeah. And it's great because I've known you and Tara for so long. Yeah. But a lot of people are their eyebrows raised, and they go, huh? When they see someone as young as yourself get married. Yeah. And what my response to him was, I think it's a cultural thing. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, how many people are married within a handful of years after high school?
I'll tell you, this is true. Home. In our hometown in Pikeville, Kentucky, Tara and I are late bloomers. Like, when we got married, people were like, well, fucking finally.
About time.
About damn time y'all decided to get married. And, we've been together for 7 years now, right? I mean, we've been together for forever. But people literally, this is a real actual conversation I had with my mother. My mom was talking about Tara and I having a baby. And I was like, obviously we want to have kids. We want to have multiple kids. So we, want to have them sooner rather than later, get started on that train before the old biological clock runs out. But like, we're really trying to wait, until after COVID to really try in earnest.
Yeah.
And my mom said...
Seems reasonable.
Yeah. And my mom said, I'm going to die before I have any grandchildren. I'm going to be too old and feeble to play with my grandchildren because you're waiting so long. And I'm like, first of all, Mom, I'm 24 years old and my wife is 23.
We just graduated college.
Just graduated. Give us a second, please.
Can we have a minute?
There's
a global pandemic going on.
Yeah.
Money's hard right now.
And the second thing that my mom never takes into account is my mom had me when she was 19 years old. So my mom is 43 years old.
Yeah.
And is saying she will be too old and feeble to play with her grandchildren.
She'll be, yeah. When's considered old and feeble back home in Pikeville? Is it?
I mean, it's...
By your mother's standards.
By, I guess, 40.
Yeah, 51.
Yeah. But, I mean, I think about it a lot. When my mom was my age, I was 3 years old.
That's crazy.
I was 3 years old when my mom was my age. And that's...
Let that sink in, audience.
Let that sink in.
That's the thing with new family. Well, it's so weird how much the family structure has changed over just the past whatever years. I mean, my parent, just for the cultural difference, is Kentucky Fried Roadkill.
It is.
The Louisville perspective, or at least I shouldn't generalize. There's a lot of generalizations made on this pod that are just said in the moment,
in the heat of the moment. Yeah,
which obviously things have nuance and stuff. But at least my experience is I go home and my parents are like, "You are not having kids until you're 40." Like, we want most of your retirement saved up before you have kids. Which, I'm not...
our generation's never going to retire, Evan. I don't know.
No, yeah,
we're going to work until we die.
Yeah, we'll be fucking grinding away at in our 90s.
Well, and here's the thing, Tara and I, we want to have 3 children. If everything...
3's a great number.
Yeah, we want to have 3. We want to adopt 1.
Yeah, makes sense.
Which is its own process. There are a lot of children out there who need homes. She and I both feel very passionately. Of course, there is no difference between our biological children and our adoptive children.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't know if we're going to adopt 1, if we're going to adopt 2, whatever.
Sometimes you go to adopt 1 and they're like, "Hey, this one comes with this other one."
And you're like, "Yeah, give me the pair, please."
Yeah.
2 for 1?
Fucking Bill Burr has such a good bit about adoption. He's like, "I love adoption. It's good. Plus you recycling. And I already know what I want. I want a 05, 04 boy soldier." It's a great bit. Go watch Bill Burr.
We've thought a lot about having our kids, and we do want to start trying for our first after the pandemic ends. That way my wife doesn't have to give labor in a mask.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I wonder if there's a whole another course on breathing exercises.
Oh my God!
Because those are already such a big thing.
We know somebody who had a baby during COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. A professor of ours.
You and I. Oh.
Yeah, had a baby during COVID.
Yes.
Whose name we will not drop.
Yes. Well, many people had babies during COVID.
Yeah.
What is it? It's gonna be about November of this year.
Mm-hmm.
All the babies born in November are all COVID babies.
COVID babies.
There's gonna be a boom of kids in the month of November. Am I doing my math right? What?
9 months.
I don't think so.
COVID
really happened in March.
It was March.
So
March of
9
2020.
months. Okay, December.
Yeah, December babies.
Okay, December babies.
Baby.
December babies are all gonna be
babies.
fucking flying out left and right.
Yeah. But it's of course Tara and I have always wanted to have kids. It's never been an issue of contention for us. But for a lot of people in my community, I can't speak to everyone's experience, but it seems that the pressure to have children and like have that very typical family, nuclear family kind of thing.
I'd imagine it's high.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, and my mom is the youngest of 11 siblings. My mom comes from a huge, like old school Appalachian family where you had a bunch of kids so they could work your farm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You had a bunch of kids. Half of them were going to die anyways a year into it. So you just, you said that on a previous pod. It's like, we were talking about slavery. It's like they didn't have slaves in Appalachia. They just had more kids.
Well, there were slaves in Appalachia, but for the most part, it was more kids.
Yeah.
Because this is weird that we got to this topic, but there's a really interesting conversation that happens with a lot of like defensive Appalachian leftists who try to downplay the presence of slaves in Appalachia. And I mean, it's true that there were no huge open air slave markets in Appalachia proper. Yeah. But to say that slavery wasn't present in Appalachia, like it feels to me like they're all trying to sort of wash their hands of it. Like, oh, I'm from Appalachia, so I didn't have any part in American slavery. Like, no, we need to own that we were a part of it too. Maybe not to such a great extent, but
yeah, I feel like Kentucky history is big on that because Kentucky didn't specifically succeed from the South.
From the Union.
From the Union.
Yeah.
So
we were a border state.
So I feel like a lot of people growing up in Kentucky, you just look at that and you're like, oh, we must have been on the good side.
Well,
I know it's more complicated. Like we said, there's nuance and all this stuff.
The world is eat up with nuance.
Yeah. Well,
how long have we been talking?
We've been talking for a minute here, so we'll start to wrap up.
Yeah. Episode 5 of Wandavision.
Episode 5. Okay.
Comes out
tomorrow.
Tomorrow, as of this recording.
Oh shit! So when this drops, so will the new episode of Wandavision.
That's right.
So
here's what we'll do.
Yes.
We talked about our artistic tastes for Wandavision this week. Episode 5 is supposed to be crazy. Everything I'm hearing says that the other shoe is going to drop in episode 5. So let's hold off on our spoilery theory talk until next episode.
Okay.
And then we'll really hit it hard in earnest. Next episode will be spoilery for WandaVision.
Okay, so there were no spoilers for WandaVision, which I feel bad. I hope nobody skips forward.
Yeah.
And then we were like, we're about to talk about spoilers, and then we talked about I talked about balls for an hour.
We did talk about balls for quite a while.
So I guess before we'll talk about one more thing before we go, and that is this. So Lil Uzi Vert.
Lil Uzi.
He got a diamond forehead implanted in his forehead. Oh Lord. So yeah, I just thought this was really interesting.
He's the Vision.
Yeah, he looks like Vision. Oh, don't you love their little Halloween costumes?
I do. It's the comic book costume. It's so rad.
And WandaVision
makes me so happy. But Lil Uzi, why Lil Uzi?
So what is your opinion on this? Because I feel like I saw this, and the first thing I thought is like, this is gonna be the new thing in like in like 5 years, and like I don't know. I think people will start injecting gems in
big fucking gemstones.
That's a $24 million rock.
Holy fuck!
Yeah, and it's removable. It's not
stuck there.
It's not stuck there. But I mean, it's quite literally putting a target on your head. Everywhere you walk around.
Listen, I believe that everybody can express themselves.
Yeah, sure.
Whatever way feels right.
Yeah, sure. Stick a diamond in your head.
But this, in my opinion, a $24 million rock piece of jewelry to decorate your face. This is why we should eat the rich. I mean, this is that rock, selling that rock and giving the money away could feed so many hungry people.
Well, yeah. Well,
and house so many hungry people and send so many desperate children to college. Like, it is absurd to me that this is the society we live in.
Yeah, but Treyton, all those children eating and going to college and furthering their education, that doesn't make Lil Uzi Vert. That doesn't make his head sparkle as much.
It doesn't. That's true.
I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's the whole excess of wealth and wealthy people spend their money on ridiculous things. The first time I saw this, I thought it was ridiculous. But the more I look at it, I'm staring at a picture.
You go there. Don't you do it.
I'm staring at a picture right now of Lil Uzi Vert, kind of with his, he's got tattoos all over his face.
Nothing wrong with that.
Not all over his face, but so he is putting himself out there for his thing, and I kind of like the forehead diamond.
I don't have a problem with it aesthetically. Aesthetically, if you want to put a $25 rock on your forehead, be my guest.
Well, I think
$24 million.
Yes, I think it's very inspiring, and I think that we should all get little. I think what this is going to do. This is going to spark a movement of putting anything injected or pierced onto your body. Doesn't have to be. Listen, if you don't have a $24 million rock, you just have then
you're a good person. If you don't have a $24 million rock, you are a good person.
And you may be a good person, but you may be sad that you're not.
Sure.
You might be sad.
Most good people are sad. That's part of it. That's part of being a good person.
You're sitting there and you're wishing that you had a rock to put in your head. I think you can put a pin cap in your head. I think it's kind of like proposing, right?
Yeah.
You're supposed to get a little diamond, a little bling, but really it's the thought that matters.
Yeah.
And so, you've heard of people like they propose with like a ring pop or something. Put a ring pop in your head.
Yeah.
Let people know.
Suck on that thing.
Oh, can you imagine? You just put a ring pop right in your head.
Let people suck that. Your forehead ring pop.
That will introduce you to a whole new circle of friends.
Yeah. It will also introduce you to a litany of new sexual experiences that you can only imagine up till this point.
Maybe wait till after COVID to get the ring pop.
I think you and I are in the same boat. I don't think either one of us could pull off piercings, right?
I simply couldn't. When I was younger, I thought maybe like I pierce an ear or something. Get a little loops in.
Sure.
For me, it's not even. I'm so worried about getting shit caught on shit all the time. That would be a prime way to get just an earlobe ripped off. I think. I don't know how people people go to bed with earrings in and all this shit in their nose, and I just I pick my nose too often for me to have metal in it or something.
Listen,
or the fucking nipple piercings, man. Don't get me.
We'll get into your nipples one episode, but this ain't it, Chief. We don't have the time.
We don't have the time. I have a weird thing about my nipples. I am afraid that someone will cut them off, and I'm therefore very protective about them. But we'll get into that at another time.
Episode of the show.
Shit.
Here's the thing. I play D&D with a guy. He's kind of like an alt goth guy. And he just looks so cool. Like, he dresses so cool, and he fucking looks so cool. And if he got his nose pierced, it would look so cool. And I look at him all the time, and I'm like, I want to look like that. That's what I want to be, gorgeous like him.
Yeah.
And I'm just not. I have to live in this fucking stink body. Growing up, I loved the look of the 90s so much. Yeah.
And I wanted to be a skater kid so bad growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to be all grungy anyone who knows me growing up, I had the long hair, skull cap.
Yeah.
I've discussed it on the show, I think. And
mm-hmm.
I just didn't have the balance.
Listen, when I grew up, I wanted to look like I wanted to be like a goth kid. That's what I wanted to be. But I came from a very religious household, which was not a bad thing. Love you, Mom. But that was just not going to happen for me. And so as I grew up, my sense of style and what like my aesthetic is still developing, honestly. Like I still don't quite know how I want to present myself to this world. But like I've evolved kind of into the full like Canadian tuxedo, like denim on denim on denim. I've kind of turned into my uncles. Like my uncles were all denim on denim on denim guys my whole life. And so I've kind of just turned into them in my adult life.
Yeah, I mainly wear shit from Goodwill. So I've turned into someone's uncle. I don't know who.
Someone's uncle, yeah.
Literally,
whenever I was directing, what show was it? I can't remember what show I was directing, but I was directing back home, and there was a girl in my show. She was 16 years old at the time, and she called me Bubby Blackburn because I had grown my facial hair out and I'd grown my hair out, and I wore my denim on denim on denim to rehearsal every day.
Yeah.
And opening night came around, and I shaved, and I combed my hair, and I put on nice clothes.
Oh, and
I wasn't wearing my boots, like my work boots that I always wore to the theater.
Opening night Treyton's so good because like he's been this dirty little devil the whole rehearsal process. He comes in, he's like, yeah, and he just like has to at the start of every rehearsal he like emerges from an egg covered in like slime and goo, and then come opening night. He's got his little sweater on and your little cardigan, and you're walking around with your little shoes, and you're like, well, thanks for coming.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Yeah. And so literally I walked into opening night. I was, ready to give a curtain speech, and she was like, what happened to you? And I was like, what do you mean? This is what I look like normally. She's like, I hate it.
I hate who you are normally.
I hate this. Go put your denim on right now. And I was like, why are you so invested in Bubby Blackburn? What is it about that you love so much?
Well, you are a very lovable character.
You're a lovable character too. I love you, Evan Pride.
Yes.
Tell your friends you love them.
Yes.
Tell your friends you love them, huh?
Hey.
You never know what could happen.
Yeah.
Tell them you love them.
Pals, I got listening to this. I love you.
Yeah.
And anyone who's not listening to this,
I don't love you.
I don't love you.
I don't love you anymore.
I hope you die.
Love each other. Love your friends.
Yeah, so share this podcast
Please.
so that we can love everyone.
Yeah.
That's a good way to end this.
For every person you share the podcast with, we will love you a little bit more.
Yes. And eventually
you will become a third in our long-term relationships. That is the ultimate prize. If you can get our view count to 1 million views, you can become a third in one of our long-lasting relationships. We'll play rock, paper, scissors for which relationship you get to be a part of.
That's nice. So yes, share the pod with your friends.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
Absolutely. This is an interesting one.
This fun one all over the place.
Absolutely.
I think this one was really fun.
I think so too. It started very strong, huh?
Yeah. Well, I think the people who have listened to every episode we've put out, or at least a number of them, I think they can notice that the show's improving with every episode.
So let's close this thing out. Who did the closing last time?
We both kind of did it. Last time we realized we hadn't done it for like an episode, and so we both did one. So to get back on track, you look like you're thinking of something.
I'm thinking. I've got. Okay. Hold on. Give me.
So Treyton, how about you close out this episode? Thank you for listening to Kentucky Fried Roadkill.
Yeah.
Treyton.
Okay. Thank you for listening to Kentucky Fried Roadkill, now in Technicolor.